Hello and welcome. In order to understand this video, you need to understand that very little within us is as fixed as it appears to be, and that the more you look for a coherent personality within, the more elusive it becomes. Research into what is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life, shows us this. This adaptability allows the brain to change its structure and function in response to learning, experience, or injury, enabling us to develop new habits, skills, and ways of thinking. Through neuroplasticity, we can essentially rewire our brains to support personal growth, overcoming old patterns, and building healthier mental pathways. This means that we have a lot more choices about who we are than it might appear at first glance, and that our sense of identity is ultimately, for the most part, illusory. Most of our limitations on who we can be and what lives we can live are in our minds, but these limitations are hard to break, as our minds are wired to keep us in what is familiar and safe, because this is what has kept us alive in the past. Our animal instincts, however, are becoming more and more obsolete under the conditions of our modern society. In Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Joe Dispenza addresses the idea of transforming one's life by reprogramming habitual thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Central to his philosophy is the concept that many of our thoughts and actions are automatic responses driven by memories, beliefs, and experiences that have been ingrained over time. This conditioned self, what Dispenza calls the habit of being is composed of repeated thoughts and emotional patterns, creating a predictable, albeit often unfulfilling, experience of life. To change this, Dispenza suggests we must engage in what he calls neuroplastic reprogramming. And if you remember, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. When we repeat the same thoughts and emotions, our brains wire these patterns into neural networks, solidifying them as automatic responses. But by consciously focusing on new ways of thinking and feeling, we can rewire these connections, essentially breaking the cycle of predictable conditioned responses and creating new, more empowering habits of thought and behavior. In a practical sense, Dispenza guides us through steps that harness neuroplasticity to support lasting change. The first step in breaking the habit of being ourselves is recognizing that we often operate from a program. Many of our reactions are automatic, arising from unconscious patterns that we may not even be aware of. For instance, a person might consistently feel anxious about the future because of past experiences, but instead of reacting automatically, Dispenza encourages awareness of these responses as they arise. By observing without judgment, we create a space in which new choices become possible. Dispenza emphasizes that creating real change begins with a deliberate focus on thoughts and feelings. Thoughts alone do not produce change unless they are consistently aligned with new feelings. For example, merely affirming a positive thought like, "I am confident," has limited impact if it is not paired with the corresponding feeling of confidence. By generating and sustaining positive emotions, such as gratitude, joy, and love, alongside new thoughts, we initiate the brain's neuroplastic response to form new neural pathways, making it easier to maintain the new behavior over time. Dispenza suggests using visualization to stimulate these emotions. By vividly imagining a desired future or a positive experience, the brain begins to respond as though that experience is actually happening. This mental rehearsal activates neural pathways associated with the desired emotion, training the mind and body to experience it as if it were real. To support this process, he advises focusing on familiar sources of joy, gratitude, or calm, small experiences where these emotions naturally arise, and then gradually expanding these feelings into your visualized scenario. Practicing gratitude for what you already have, for instance, is often an effective gateway to more sustained feelings of appreciation. Over time, with repeated focus and practice, these new emotions become more natural. By consistently revisiting them, you strengthen the brain's neural connections for these chosen emotions, allowing them to replace old automatic reactions. This approach helps establish the foundation for the emotional reality you want to live in. Furthermore, when you mentally rehearse a new experience or habit, your brain doesn't differentiate between this mental imagery and real experiences. This rehearsal stimulates the same neural networks as the actual event, laying the foundation for new behaviors. For instance, by visualizing a calm, confident response in a challenging situation and feeling the corresponding emotions, you can train your brain to react differently in real life, effectively rewriting your emotional responses and thought patterns. If you want to be good at this, it is also important that you consciously pay attention to how positive emotions feel, so that you can remember the feeling when you later want to conjure them up. Dispenza also explores how to use meditation to enhance neuroplasticity. By entering meditative states, we slow down brainwaves, moving from beta, active thinking, to alpha and even theta states, where subconscious programming is more accessible. In these states, Dispenza explains, the mind becomes open to suggestion, making it possible to replace old, unwanted habits with new, intentional ones. For example, a person struggling with self-doubt might use meditation to enter a receptive state and then focus on thoughts and feelings of self-assurance, gradually retraining the brain to adopt this as the new default state. To support these changes, Dispenza emphasizes the importance of consistently embodying the new self rather than reverting to old habits. If circumstances admit it, he suggests that individuals commit to daily practices of self-reflection, meditation, and mental rehearsal to reinforce the desired changes. When done consistently, this approach trains the brain to prioritize new neural pathways over the old, effectively making the new self a reality. According to Dispenza, this shift from a familiar, reactive self to a conscious, deliberate one can be uncomfortable initially, as the brain resists unfamiliar patterns because we are wired for survival, and this means staying in what is known and safe. But persistence gradually establishes these new ways as the default response. As mentioned in the beginning for Dispenza, breaking the habit of being oneself is not only about personal development, but also about healing and transcending limitations. He explains that habitual negative emotions, such as resentment, fear, or unworthiness, create stress, which negatively affects physical health by constantly activating the stress response. Chronic stress keeps the body in a state of fight or flight, which, over time, can weaken the immune system and other bodily functions. By consciously choosing thoughts and feelings that promote peace, joy, and gratitude, we can deactivate the stress response, supporting physical health alongside mental and emotional well-being. This puts these ideas in a very physical, tangible context. If you live in a constant state of stress, it will weaken you in a very real, measurable sense. It will also make it difficult to get out of fixed patterns of thinking and behaving, as well as for novel ideas to come into your life, as this mindset tends to create tunnel vision. You become focused on the problems and on maintaining the status quo rather than on moving forward. This leads us to the importance of overcoming the body's habitual responses, which Dispenza calls the body's memory. Through repeated experiences and emotions, the body learns to respond in specific ways, almost as if it has its own memory. For example, if a person is frequently feeling anxious, the body becomes conditioned to respond to certain situations with anxiety. This bodily response reinforces the old neural connections related to anxiety, making it difficult to break free from the habit, which in turn leads to the same habitual behaviors that you've practiced in relation to situations or thoughts that trigger anxiety. Dispenza advises paying close attention to these physical reactions and consciously choosing different responses, even if they feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable initially. By simply bringing more awareness into our behavior, we begin to loosen the grip of habit, and down the line, there will be a shift when we notice that we more and more make conscious choices rather than just allow the mind and body to go into unconscious autopilot mode as soon as we face a situation or thought that triggers negative emotions. The practical application of these principles requires sustained effort. Dispenza suggests that lasting change does not occur in a day or two. Instead, it requires daily commitment. By continually reinforcing the chosen thoughts and feelings, for example, in meditation, self-reflection, and meditation, we keep reactivating the brain's neuroplastic potential, gradually building the new neural pathways that support the desired changes. Over time, these new neural connections become stronger, and the old ones weaken from disuse, making the new behaviors feel more natural. A crucial component of breaking the habit of being oneself is letting go of the attachment to past experiences and identities. Dispenza points out that our self-concept often includes limitations we have internalized from past experiences, leading us to see ourselves as not good enough, unlucky, or otherwise restricted. These limiting beliefs form a self-identity that feels safe because it is familiar, even if it doesn't serve our highest potential. Dispenza encourages a willingness to release these old identities and open up to the possibilities of a new self that is not defined by past limitations. This act of release can feel uncomfortable, as the familiar self may resist change, but it is essential for creating lasting transformation. It's important to recognize that we seldom spell these beliefs out for ourselves. We usually rather discover them by observing ourselves and asking ourselves questions about why we think, speak, and act the way we do. For example, imagine you often feel nervous in social situations, convinced others will judge you negatively. By observing this anxiety and asking why you feel it, you might realize that deep down, you believe you're not interesting enough or not good enough for others. Recognizing this belief lets you question its accuracy. Maybe you've been carrying it since a few awkward experiences in childhood. With this awareness, you can start choosing new thoughts and telling yourself you're worthy of connection, which helps gradually release the anxiety. Or suppose you often hold back from pursuing new opportunities, like applying for a promotion or starting a hobby. If you observe your thoughts and ask why you hesitate, you may uncover a belief that you're not talented or unlucky. Reflecting on this could reveal that you internalize these beliefs from past setbacks or critical feedback. By realizing that past experiences don't define your future, you can begin to rewrite this belief and take small steps toward your goals, focusing on growth rather than self-judgment. An underlying theme in all of this is the importance of embracing uncertainty. Dispenza argues that true transformation requires stepping into the unknown, beyond familiar thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. For those accustomed to predictability, which means most of us, this can be challenging, as the mind and body may resist. However, according to Dispenza, by embracing the unknown with a sense of curiosity and openness, we allow for the possibility of creating a reality that is not limited by past experiences. In this sense, breaking the habit of being oneself is about cultivating a sense of wonder and potential, rather than clinging to the comfort of the known. Finally, Dispenza's approach to personal transformation underscores the power of conscious choice. By recognizing that our habitual responses are just that, habits rather than fixed traits, we gain the power to choose differently. Dispenza believes that each conscious choice in alignment with the quote-unquote new self strengthens the brain's neural pathways that support the desired change. Over time, these conscious choices reshape the brain structure, making it easier to sustain the new self without constant effort. In summary, Joe Dispenza's concept of breaking the habit of being yourself involves reprogramming the mind and body through the principles of neuroplasticity. By actively choosing new thoughts, embodying positive emotions, and releasing attachment to past identities, we create new neural connections that support lasting change. This process requires consistent practice and a willingness to embrace discomfort and uncertainty, but over time, it enables us to create a life aligned with our highest potential. Through meditation, mental rehearsal, and daily conscious choices, we transform our brain and body, allowing the new self to become our reality, step by step. Finally, the quest for freedom from our limitations will in all likelihood not be completed by listening to this video. But the hope is that it has encouraged you to look deeper into the science behind inner change, neuroplasticity, and first and foremost, deeper within yourself and into your immediate experience of life, who you perceive yourself to be, why, and if this is who you really are. Ultimately, the hope is that the video will prompt you to question what you've been told about who you are, what you're supposed to want and prioritize, the human experience, and the nature of reality itself. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.